All right, joining me now, Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin. Senator Johnson, first of all, I don't know, I may have congratulated you on your reelection. If so, I'll do it again. It's an easy thing to do. But I want to ask you what you think about this whole Elon Musk story, releasing the emails. But I'm still hung up. It's not Hunter Biden so much as concerns me as Joe Biden and what kind of money he received from the influence peddling of his own son and his cronies in China and Ukraine and God knows where. What are you thinking here, Senator Johnson? You've been on this case.
Well, first of all, Larry, I've been saying for at least 2 years that as troubling as the corruption of the Biden family foreign financial entanglements is, as much as President Biden is compromised, as much as that threatens our national security, as big a story, as troubling a situation as that is the corruption within federal law enforcement, our federal intelligence agencies, and of course the corruption and complicity of the mainstream media. These are three separate areas, quite honestly, that need to be fully exposed. But if you want to start with the Bidens, you know, Senator Grassley and I pretty well laid out at least the extent of all the foreign financial entanglements in our September 2020 report, which was widely ignored by the media. Our report, by the way, did prompt Mr. McIsaac to offer us that computer the next day. We didn't take possession of it because we checked with the FBI. Why did we do that? Well, it's now pretty obvious that the FBI had their own concerted effort to deep six that computer story if it ever surfaced. I think probably the best revelation out of the Twitter files so far is the fact that the FBI was already shopping the possibility of foreign actors hacking computers, then taking those hacks, using them to spread disinformation, including on people like Hunter Biden. Now, why is that significant? It's because the FBI had the Hunter Biden computer, we believe, as early as December of 2019. They supposedly did nothing with it. I doubt that. I think they were looking at that. And because there are partisans, the higher up of the FBI, that is why they are coming to people like me, warning us about Russian disinformation, how we potentially targets. I didn't need to be told that. They were already playing me. They were already trying to set up the situation in case that computer ever became public to basically downplay its significance, to call it Russian disinformation, which is exactly what those 51 intelligence officials did. So it's a much larger story. The corruption of the FBI involvement in this goes way beyond the Twitter files. This starts probably as early as 2019, and I'm having my staff right now develop a timeline showing you all the detailed involvement of the FBI and the corruption of that, and we'll be releasing that shortly.
So, Senator Johnson, I'm curious, the FBI, the CIA, the DNI, all these intel geniuses who covered this up, they're still at large. I think they're still corrupting American free speech. I think also this extends to more than these international issues. For example, COVID was suppressed, as you know. There were issues, I'll go all the way back to the domestic terrorists. Parents who were going to PTA meetings were accused of being domestic terrorists by the Justice Department. The Justice Department was engaged with these social media platforms. In other words, what Elon Musk has done with his free speech efforts is he's uncovered a whole variety of corruption in our public discourse.
Well, again, I've been aware of this. I've been the receiving end of the corruption. Had we won the majority, had I been chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigations, subpoenas would go flying. So now hopefully the House will work with us. They'll pay attention to what information we have, and they'll start trying to uncover this through subpoenas as well. But no, there's a huge story out here that is right now being overlooked. We're focusing on Twitter, and that's fine. We should focus on the corruption of the FBI and other actors with Twitter and how they suppressed the Hunter Biden story, how they suppressed information on COVID, that type of thing as well. Again, there's a huge story here. We've just begun to scratch the surface of uncovering it.
What's going to happen in the Senate? Do any of your colleagues on the Democratic side want to pursue this? What do you reckon?
So far, I haven't seen a whole lot of desire on their part. I'll continue to work with the chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee, Senator Ossoff. Hopefully, I can pique his interest, and maybe we can cooperate in uncovering some of these truths. But they need to be uncovered. But the problem is this is a highly partisan operation. The Democrat Party during the campaigns lied. The lies were amplified by the media and the social media giants. They have leftist operatives working inside these agencies. They don't want this uncovered. They'll be shown to be complicit in it. We had intelligence products produced, classified, and then leaked by Democrat members of the Senate against Senator Grassley and I. They don't want this uncovered, so I'm not expecting much cooperation from our Democrat colleagues. We're going to have to look to the House, and hopefully they'll work with us to uncover this.
I mean, if you did it right, shouldn't there be a full-scale investigation into Facebook as well? I mean, Zuckerberg kind of sort of said on a podcast that they were guilty of some cover-ups, but the reality is they were probably up to their eyeballs in the same kind of behavior that Twitter was before Elon Musk bought it?
Well, Larry, the entire media ought to be investigated. They ought to be investigating themselves. Where are the investigations in terms of the mainstream media uncovering their sources for the Russian collusion hoax? Those are all lies. I mean, all the information fed to the news media was a lie. Why haven't those people been exposed by the media? Because the media is corrupt and complicit themselves. That needs to be exposed.
What about the issue of influence peddling and money going to, quote, the big guy, the 10% for the big guy? I mean, I find the Hunter Biden stuff, we'll learn whatever we're going to learn. But I, frankly, am more interested in how much of this corruption money got to Joe Biden. When did it get there? Is it still getting there? Might it be paying his expenses? You follow my logic, Senator Johnson?
Sure.
We need to, how can we find out about that? This is a classic show me the money, follow the money.
Well, this should actually be pretty simple when you have access to the records. Obviously, Senator Grassley and I use Treasury reports. We use those Treasury reports to investigate. We got actual bank records. So you follow the money. The money that went into Hunter Biden's accounts, it went out to other entities. I don't have access to those financial transactions. The Treasury Department does. Federal agencies do. Banks do. So again, if you have access to those records, you should be able to track this down pretty fast. I mean, what went to James Biden? What went to Joe Biden? What accounts? Are they in the Cayman Islands? I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I'll tell you who does know it, Larry. Chinese intelligence, Iranian intelligence, Russian intelligence. That's why it's so dangerous for Hunter Biden and Joe Biden to be involved in these financial entanglements. It compromises a president of the United States. It impacts our national security. This needs to be tracked down. The truth has to be exposed. But again, our federal law enforcement agencies are partisan, and they have not been acting in good faith.
Senator Johnson, it reminds me, just one last question on this. Why is TikTok still operating here? That's a direct line. There's no censorship. That's a direct information line to Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party. It's an instrumentality of the Chinese government through ByteDance, its owner. We all know that. Why in the world is TikTok still operating here? Can you explain that to us?
You'd have to follow the money to really get the answer to that, Larry, and that's what we ought to do.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Senator Ron Johnson, thank you, sir. And again, congratulations on your reelect.